Ever wondered how powerful your words could be, especially when you're a caregiver? The role of a caregiver is often seen as practical or physical, but the words we use have a profound impact on those in our care. They can be tools of encouragement, comfort, and respect. But they can also be unintentional weapons if we're not careful. One of the most crucial aspects of communication as a caregiver is to avoid disrespectful or offensive language. This seems like common sense, right? But sometimes we might not even realize that our words can be perceived as derogatory or disrespectful. Let's take age, for instance. It's easy to make an offhand comment about someone being spry for their age, but this could be seen as patronizing or even offensive. Similarly, comments about a person's race, gender, disability, or any other characteristic can be damaging and disrespectful. We must remember that our words are a reflection of our attitude, and a respectful and inclusive tone should be our default setting. This extends to the promises we make. It's natural to want to reassure those in our care, to promise them that everything will be all right. But making promises that we can't keep, like guaranteeing a specific outcome, can lead to a loss of trust. We must be honest yet compassionate in our communications. And let's not forget about the importance of privacy. Discussing personal matters or sharing confidential information without consent is not just disrespectful, it's a breach of trust. It's essential to maintain a professional boundary and respect the privacy of those in our care. In the same vein, we must avoid dismissing or ignoring the concerns of those we care for. Active listening and addressing worries and complaints are crucial for building trust and fostering a supportive environment. Lastly, it's essential to avoid patronizing or infantilizing speech. Each person in our care is an individual with their own experiences and wisdom. They deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, not talked down to or dismissed. So remember, our words matter. As caregivers, it's our duty to maintain a respectful and inclusive tone at all times. Our promises can be comforting, but what happens when they can't be kept? Let's delve into that. In a caregiving context, making promises that cannot be fulfilled can be harmful. It may seem like a small gesture of reassurance at the time, but the fallout can be significant and damaging. Consider a caregiver assuring a resident that their family will visit soon without knowing the family's plans, or guaranteeing a patient that they will walk again despite the uncertain prognosis. These unfulfilled promises can lead to disappointment, resentment, and a loss of trust. Trust is a cornerstone in the caregiver-patient relationship. Once broken, it can be incredibly challenging to rebuild. It's not about withholding hope or positivity, but about setting realistic expectations. In situations where outcomes are uncertain, it's better to communicate honestly, providing support and empathy, rather than making promises that may not materialize. Remember, in the world of caregiving, honesty is always the best policy. Imagine if your personal matters were discussed without your consent. How would you feel? Now let's translate this feeling into the world of caregiving. As caregivers, we are privy to a wealth of personal and confidential information about those we care for. It's a position that requires trust, discretion, and above all, respect for privacy. Consider this scenario: a caregiver discussing a resident's medical condition with a colleague in a shared space. This is not just unprofessional, but also a breach of the resident's privacy. Or what about sharing stories of residents with friends or family? These seemingly innocent actions can have serious consequences, potentially undermining the trust that is so essential in a caregiving relationship. It's crucial to remember that everyone has a right to privacy, regardless of their situation. This applies to their personal affairs, their medical conditions, and any other information that they haven't given explicit consent to share. Privacy is a fundamental right. As caregivers, we must uphold this right for those in our care. A scene script. Have you ever felt unheard? It's not a pleasant feeling, is it? In the realm of caregiving, the act of listening goes beyond just hearing words. It means actively engaging in the conversation, acknowledging the concerns, and making an effort to address them. Imagine being in their shoes, having a worry or a complaint, and it is dismissed or ignored. It's a quick path to frustration and can lead to a serious breakdown in trust. For instance, if a resident voices a concern about their medication schedule and it's brushed off, they might feel their health and well-being isn't a priority. Or, if a family member raises a complaint about the quality of care and it's disregarded, it can create a sense of helplessness and mistrust. Active listening is about understanding, empathy, and action. It's about showing the person that their voice matters, their concerns are valid, and their feelings are acknowledged. Remember, Everyone wants to feel heard. As caregivers, it's our job to listen and respond appropriately. How does it feel when someone talks down to you or treats you like a child? It's uncomfortable, isn't it? Now imagine being a resident in a care facility, and the person you rely upon for your daily needs speaks to you in a patronizing or infantilizing manner. It's not a pleasant picture. In the world of caregiving, it's essential to respect the individuality of the people we care for. Everyone has a life story filled with experiences, accomplishments, and wisdom. Therefore, speaking to them as though they are incapable or less than can be deeply hurtful and disrespectful. What does patronizing speech look like? It could be as subtle as using a tone of voice that's more suited to speaking to a small child, or as overt as making decisions for someone without their input. It's important to remember to communicate with respect, acknowledging the autonomy and individuality of each person. Dignity, respect, and autonomy. These are the pillars of caregiver communication. Ever felt rushed or dismissed? It's not a good feeling, is it? In the realm of caregiving, we must never underestimate the importance of taking the time to listen and assist with requests. Every request is a window into understanding the needs, desires, and concerns of those we care for. Imagine a resident asking for a glass of water. This simple request might be disregarded or rushed, especially during a busy shift. But it's essential to remember that to this resident, their request is significant. It's a basic need, a call for comfort, or perhaps even a plea for interaction. Or consider a request for a room temperature change. It might seem minor to us, but to the resident, it could make all the difference in their comfort and well-being. These moments are not just about fulfilling a task. They're opportunities to foster trust, demonstrate empathy, and affirm the dignity of those in our care. In caregiving, every request matters. Let's treat them as such. Have you ever been falsely reassured or made to feel guilty about needing help? A common pitfall in caregiving is offering empty promises or false reassurances. For instance, guaranteeing a resident's quick recovery when the prognosis is uncertain can lead to confusion and lost trust. It's essential to offer comfort, but honesty and empathy must be at the heart of our interactions. Equally problematic is blaming residents or their families for their situation. Imagine being told that you're a burden or that your condition is your own fault. Such statements can inflict deep emotional wounds and create a hostile atmosphere. Instead, remember that everyone needs help at some point in their lives, and needing assistance is not a sign of weakness, but a fundamental part of our shared human experience. We should strive to create an environment of understanding, where residents feel safe and supported. Empathy, not guilt or false reassurances, should guide our interactions as caregivers. Pain is real, isn't it? So why do some people minimize it? It's a question that needs addressing. In the realm of caregiving, it's essential to take each resident's pain or discomfort seriously. You see, pain is subjective. What may seem minor to one person could be debilitating to another. Imagine a resident experiencing a persistent ache, yet the caregiver dismisses it as insignificant. This not only undermines the resident's experience, but it could also delay necessary medical intervention. Or picture a resident feeling uncomfortable due to an ill-fitting assistive device. If the caregiver brushes off the complaint, the resident could end up with painful sores or even injuries. In each instance, the caregiver's lack of acknowledgement can lead to amplified suffering for the resident. So, let's be vigilant. Let's lend an ear to their concerns, validate their experiences, and take prompt, appropriate action. In caregiving, every pain matters. Let's remember to treat it as such. We all have our preferences and beliefs that are important to us, don't we? And this is no different when we're talking about those we care for. As caregivers, it's vital to respect individual needs and preferences, whether they're personal, cultural, or religious. Imagine a vegetarian being served a meat dish, or someone whose religion requires them to pray at certain times of the day, but they're interrupted or not given the space to do so. These are not just minor oversights. They're significant breaches of respect and can cause deep discomfort or offense. It's also about honoring personal preferences. Say, for instance, a resident prefers to have their breakfast at a later time, or maybe they like to keep a certain family tradition. Respecting these preferences isn't just about ticking a box. It's about acknowledging their individuality and autonomy. In essence, being sensitive to these practices, preferences, and beliefs is fundamental to providing quality care. As caregivers, respecting diversity is not just a duty, it's a privilege. So, what have we learned today about what caregivers should never say? We've underscored the importance of maintaining a respectful and inclusive tone, steering clear from any disrespectful or offensive language. We've also highlighted the pitfalls of making unkept promises and the necessity to respect the privacy of those we care for. Importantly, we've emphasized the significance of active listening. Ignoring or downplaying the concerns of those we serve can lead to frustration and a breakdown of trust. We've also explored the dangers of patronizing or infantilizing speech and the need to treat everyone with dignity and individuality. We've cautioned against rushing or disregarding requests and the potential harm of false reassurances. We've noted the importance of avoiding blame or guilt and the seriousness of minimizing someone's pain or discomfort. Lastly, we've stressed the importance of recognizing and respecting personal and cultural preferences. Remember, as caregivers, our words can heal or hurt. Let's choose them wisely.